Welcome to ClickPoint, where we explore how this powerful combination transforms lives across industries like education, technology, venture capital, and sustainability. Today, we are speaking to Nono Bokete, who is the CEO and head of digital strategy and data for Data Sentinels, which is an organization that focuses on AI, data science, and digital transformation. A couple of the interesting concepts that we get into on this episode is, one, the cost of technology, and two, privacy in the digital age. Let's get into it. I'm really excited to have this guest on, especially because I have known you for maybe 3 months, and I wouldn't even call it 3 strong months. You know, we've spoken maybe 4 times over 3 months. But I was very fortunate to meet you at a big tech conference. And see how I did that? At a really big tech conference where someone's like, have you met this person? You need to come meet this person. They're really amazing. I've never had that happen to me before. So, Nono, thank you for joining ClickPoint today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being invited, even thought of as someone who would be worthy of sharing a space with you, Kawaku. So thank you.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, let's kick it off. This is a really easy question. And actually, I typically ask people the same question to kick off this entire podcast, which is usually, what inspired you to start using technology in your current role? But that doesn't really work for you with your current role. So literally today I was like, how can I tweak this question? So I'm going to ask you a more complicated question. I know, don't get nervous. Don't make that face. It's going to be fun. I promise.
I'm breathing.
I know. Deep breath. It's okay to feel anxious. How would you define your job outside of just saying your title? And how will technology help you in your role of affecting the lives of 1 million people?
Okay, that is a good question. How would I define my role without my title? I would say that I am someone who is cultivating knowledge systems across different continents. And I'm looking to create human connection through that to basically have positive impact to people. And when I say that, I think of the word Ubuntu, which means I am because we are, that interconnectedness between us. So I feel like that's it at the core. And then how technology does that is it actually enables some of that in terms of reaching people from different backgrounds, people who might not even have access, generally have access to someone like me, because, back in the day before technology, you had to physically be next to someone or read a book if that book is in your language or whatever the case may be. Now with technology, you can watch on the multiple platforms that are out there. See how I did that? Didn't even.
I did. Go on. All of it is gold. No. Keep going. Keep dying.
Yeah, so I feel like technology basically enables that. It enables us to connect more. But inversely, it can also work badly. Because you aren't able necessarily to filter what is out there, who's saying what, depending on who has access to you, right? Some people are recording things, they'll share, hey, this person said this, make it a clickbait. It's totally out of context, but they just need views. And yeah, so I think that it's good. I think it's more good than bad, but I do think that the ownership is still around us as people. And for me specifically is how do we allow for knowledge systems to exist, especially in places where they might not be easily accessed.
Okay, man, that was a better answer than the question. And the question was pretty good. All right. One, there's so much that you've just said that literally epitomizes this podcast. and I'm going to start here. One, the idea of technology enabling people to have access to things, and tying the liberation of access to access of tech, to the liberation of access in general to access of to technology. There's that, the idea that you are using technology to, in a way, I'm paraphrasing, act as an educator by giving people access to knowledge systems, which I think is crazy in the way that it makes a ton of sense. But it's rare that I've heard non-educators or non-ed tech people describe it, because I wouldn't put you in the ed tech category. And the most... Okay, wow, that was really blatant that you wanted to establish that. I think everyone knows.
Just because I don't want you people in that space to call me out like, oh, I was like, I am not there. I am just, visiting. Hi.
Wow. Which begs the question, what do you mean, you people? If
You asked it.
You did say it. Boy, am I glad this is over video, because you really intimidated me there for a second. The third point, the thing that I really love, and I say this on this podcast all the time. One, I try to talk to people across a bunch of different mediums: education, technology, social impact, venture, business, all of that, and their use of technology and how they use it to connect people. But selfishly, this is really a medium for me to be able to have conversations with really amazing people that I meet. And you 1,000% check all of those boxes. 1,000%.
Keep the compliments coming. I will not stop you.
Okay, great. Yeah, you're like, this is going to be a 4-hour podcast. I'm just going to listen to it on repeat. All right, so let's dig in. Do you feel, based upon, that intro answer, do you feel that technology allows people to have as much access as they would have in person? So, and I'm gonna clarify that question in a really specific way. You and I met in person. And then afterwards we did a video chat. I'm like, oh, we have all this stuff in common. Both our parents are African. You know what I mean? We're both in this tech space in different ways. We do care about the idea of access to knowledge. We have all these similarities. And I'm not sure, would we have had the same level of connection if we'd met online first? And so then tying that to the access of knowledge systems, do people gain as much if they're accessing it virtually as they do if they're in person with someone at some point?
That is a really good question. So I'm now trying to think about who have I met online first and then become a friend later, as in like a grown, meaningful relationship with. And I can't really think of anybody, or I think everybody I've always met in person. However, I feel like because of technology, it's allowed for me to cultivate more relationships with. So do you know what so it's like, yes, I will meet you in person, we'll spark. Okay, cool. I'm happy. But then you live like 50,000 miles away in some cases. People that I know are like halfway across the world. So I wouldn't really be able to have any sort of follow up without technology. And one of the things that I've also seen, like in regards to like knowledge systems, is we actually pair a human with people. So it's what usually happens is there's a cohort of people, they access the knowledge through, technology. And on a weekly basis, there's this like quorum where everyone basically talks about what they learned that week. And there's a human who's kind of guiding that process. And the human is empowered by AI. And I say that very strategically in the sense of, I don't want anyone to in 2025, can I say the year? 2025.
You can say the years, yes.
Okay.
You can say the year.
I don't want everyone in 2025, if you're listening to what I'm saying, and not think that you can actually leverage things like artificial intelligence or these large language models to actually enhance what you're providing somebody. So when I say they're empowered, that you're dealing with a human who's empowered by AI is because there might be certain circumstances that they aren't able to facilitate something, but because they have AI, it allows them to be more for those people. And I think that what I've seen in terms of numbers is we have a higher rate of completion when we have the cohort system in place versus just self-learning online. And I think the reason is because humans are lazy and it takes a lot of calories to do anything that just wake up, eat, sleep. You know what I mean? Now it's like, I'm not looking for knowledge that's going to cost me a lot of more effort. And I'm doing it by myself, oh my word. So those people, like if you find those people are probably shop callers, like as in the fact is they don't actually even need that because it's like they already are showing the tenacity of hunger, discipline, self-resilience, that grit because they don't need some kind of holding their hand. So do I think that is it better with technology? I think that you have more access with technology. So if it's like, is it better than nothing? Yes. Is it better than me looking you in the eye so you can touch me and laugh with me and you have that energy and that like hum of human interaction and the playing drums in the background, like, you're going into a trance?
Yeah. That's a specific example that you just provided, by the way. I just want to point that out. Go on.
I went to a game, my very first, my very first game in Texas, for soccer, and they were playing they had a live band thing, but they were playing drums, and I was like, oh my gosh, every time I enter a room, I want this band. It's like, oh, you put the ancestors in your soul. That's get that online. I don't think you can. Is it? I'll try, but I don't think you're moving in your soul. Yeah.
Okay, all right, man. So much. that one brought an actual tear. So it's so funny that you mentioned. All right, so not the platform that we're on now, but the platform where I have most of my meetings on when I meet with people, and I'll shout them out. They're good people. Roam. They do have a feature in there that each time you enter a room, you can choose the music that plays as you enter the room. So yeah, interesting that you brought that up. I think that's great. So, and by the way, this is just gonna be a series of, it's like, oh, you said this really interesting thing, and now I'm gonna ask you a follow-up question. Okay. So these two things. One, you talked about how the docents, I'm going to call them the human docents, the connector, the humans within this knowledge sharing piece that your organization does, how they are empowered by AI. So I thought two things at first. One, aren't we all empowered by AI at this point? I think they're less of I think some of us are less conscious of how empowered we are by AI. Like, oh, I need to get this really great gift. I'm going to go to Amazon and, oh, well, there's something. This is great. Even though, whether it's things that we've talked about or things that that information's been sourced from somewhere. And then there are people like you and I'm assuming I'm going to group us together. I think you probably do it in a more detailed way than I do, that leverage the power of AI to augment, whether it be things that we do in work that actually augment the interaction that we have with people. So from my end, I was talking with a good friend of mine, Betsy, who I had on the podcast previously, and she's like, yeah, when you have people on the podcast, you really need to do a little more research. She said it in a much gentler way. I'm paraphrasing. Because I love to actually unearth a lot of things from people through conversation. And she's like, yeah, but, to sort of facilitate, the medium of the podcast, you need to do research. And so what I've started doing is I basically, view people's LinkedIn profiles before I interview them to see what they're posting about, to see what they're talking about, to make sure that I'm really narrowing the questions so they're not too broad, which was the really great feedback that she gave me. But that's me leveraging a level of what I'm seeing through my feed or even going to their profile. That's like a surface level of it. So one, how are your docents empowered by AI, to the point that you can share? And two, I would love to hear your thoughts about whether or not we're all empowered by AI right now and what that means for our interactions with people.
So when I'm going to start with your last question. When I think about empowered by AI, I feel like it's a conscious decision. So it's not like you moving silently through the world and going, oh, wow, how does Alexa know that how did Netflix know that I really love this show? This guy's super handsome and he's on all three. Like, of course I'm going to watch them in a row. So I think it's more like being cognizant of what that actually is and and being very intentional about how you're going to use it, because you don't have to use it, right? As in terms of, yes, there are all these great tools and there are so many, I can't even begin to list them. Mm-hmm. But do you actually use them? And specifically for me, like one of the tools that we use is just note takers. Because everyone, I think, can relate to that. So if you get a note taker in your meeting, a lot of people, what they do with those note takers is maybe they'll read it. Maybe they don't. Actually, I think many people don't read it. But what our partners do is that's pretty much like the evidence of where your gaps live based on the conversations that you are having, right? And you can, because the journeys are usually 3 months, 6 months, up to 12 months. So there's a lot of conversations, if you're having weekly conversations with people, that you might actually forget, hey, there's this gap that we kind of missed. Yeah. So that's what I mean about empowered, because even you and I, when we're having conversations, Kwaku, you're extremely intelligent. You'll probably remember that, hey, Nono said that thing that last time I saw her like 5 months ago, whatever the case may be, and be able to bring it up. But in reality, you are probably not a dime a dozen, but probably one in like 20 million. So in order to allow for that high functioning impact of work, that's what I mean about they're empowered by AI.
All right, let me ask you a quick question on that. Oh man, that was such a good one. So first of all, I'm not as high. Like I literally do use AI note taking, like in that Roam platform that we were talking about. And to your point about being empowered, I'll share my process. What it does, it records a transcript, and I think we talked about, so it turns that into like an LLM. And what leans into my strengths is that I just write down questions based upon things that people are saying. Like even now, as we're talking, I'm like writing down like, oh, this is my follow-up question. So I love that you clarify that about how to be empowered and being intentional around it. Outside of the work that you do, but maybe in whether this is through your knowledge of how AI could be utilized, could you give me examples of how you think empowering people with AI could be less than positive or could work in negative ways?
Yeah, I do think so. So when I think about social media, I think that when that technology was introduced to connect a lot of different people across the globe, it was great. Like, so I will shout out like some of the older platforms where it's like, I would have never spoken to that person because I moved around a lot growing up. So that was actually a great way to kind of stay connected to people across the world that I used to know. However, the way that I feel like technology might be used for bad, and specifically AI, is these social platforms need eyeballs on them. And they need eyeballs on them for a really long time. So when you find yourself scrolling or interacting with that platform, you're like, wow, how did like 30 minutes go? Or whatever, an hour or 5 hours. It's not because it's by accident, it's by design. And I think that is bad because in my opinion, you still need to go outside. You still need to meet people. I love technology. I'm the sort of person who I'm happy to surrender my privacy.
Interesting. Wow. That is
okay. My privacy. If you promise me that when I wake up in the morning, My little robot has made me a perfect breakfast because they know last night I had a long night and this is the breakfast that I need to have in the morning. When I walk out into the street, my car's ready to drive me. I'm not driving myself. My car's driving me to there. And my little AI helper is letting me know about the next 3 meetings and what I need to know about Kawaku. What are the main points? Oh, and then his kid had a birthday. So don't forget, maybe I ordered you this present that you're going to pick up from that. If you are talking about that level of efficiency, for me, I will surrender. But if it's not at that level, then you need to be very conscious about how much privacy you're kind of giving up to basically utilize some of the greatness of the tools, because it works on the knowledge about the person. So when I think about when technology is not good or AI is not good, I look at it in that way. Like, how are they making you buy for no reason? Right? We're looking like all these like random, like you feel like it's random, but it's not so random. It's on purpose. And we don't really have, in my opinion, enough markers. There are some countries, I think New Zealand or Australia made a law where if you're 16 and under, you are no longer allowed to have access to social media. And it was a big deal.
Australia. I think
yes, so it was a big deal and it's passed and everything. And, I'm like, I don't know, is that good or bad? We'll find out. But when you're looking at the data that's sitting out there around how young people are being impacted so negatively, maybe it is good.
So, all right. So you said something, everything you're saying is interesting. So everything's like, oh, you said this interesting thing. You are an example of what you were graciously described me as. This person is really intelligent, like high functioning. And so the level of efficiency that you described, if you can achieve that, that makes you even more high functioning. And then theoretically, as a result, it gives you more time to be out in nature and to be around people and all of that. Do you feel that the threshold of efficiency that other people have matches yours as far as relinquishing privacy for it? Because I'm a person where it's like, I was having this conversation with someone the other day where I talked about moving from a smaller city. I used to live in Memphis to moving to San Diego, but I'm originally from New York. New York's a big city. And what I did not realize the thing that I really missed the most once I left Brooklyn was anonymity. I love the idea of being able to walk down the street and someone's not just like, oh, hey, you're that guy. That was never, like, some people crave that. That was never me. And when we moved to Memphis as a family, I remember once we went to a basketball game and my son was really young at that point, and he was like, oh, we're in this place where I can just scream as loud as I want. This is great. So he really got into the defense and yelling that during the game. And like 2 or 3 weeks later, we're flying someplace. We're going to the airport and the security person's like, hey, were you at the basketball game a couple of weeks ago? I saw you there. Oh, there's your son. That freaked me out.
Yeah,
that's an in-person example of something. And so I think that scales up when we're talking about the amount of privacy that we relinquish for efficiency or efficacy or convenience. Do you know Kevin Kelly? Do you know who he is? He's one of the founders of Wired magazine, and he's one.
Okay, I know Wired magazine. I did not know his name.
So he wrote this book called The Inevitable in 2011. And in the book, it's like all these amazing insights, and he talks about a lot of emerging tech and how it will shape society. And it was really interesting to see how he was right. I mean, he's not dead, but but how he was right. He was really, really prolific in being able to predict the future in this way. And he has this line in the book, and I'm gonna butcher it, but that people will constantly sacrifice privacy for convenience. You labeled it as efficiency. Do you think as a whole, as a people, that we really understand the difference between the two and then use that as a gate? Or is it convenience? Is it efficiency? Whatever. Great. This is easier. I will give away all that info.
I don't actually think people know what they're giving away, to be honest. I think that you don't know how much you are giving away. And I can even say that about myself. Like, sometimes I use chat to be like, read the T's and C's of this because I can't read these 500 pages or whatever, especially if it's like a big like investment or whatnot. But like in my day-to-day life, there's certain things about the price to use something is if you don't even say yes, you can't use it. So then you have to ask, well, is it worth it? If everybody in my community is kind of using this and this is how I'm going to access them and whatever the case may be. And I think that, there's not a lot of knowledge around what that actually means in terms of the privacy around that. And I think that maybe some organizations are profiting from the lack of knowledge of how much people are giving up. But inversely, you could also argue that if everyone's giving up everything, it's like, if everything's an emergency, nothing's an emergency. So if everything is out and about, maybe not your social security, but it's the main things that are kind of like, out and about.
Again, another specific example. Go on.
I was thinking of this guy in Seattle. He can't remember his name, but he was a CEO and he had this like cybersecurity company and he'd have his social security on like these trucks. And I think they hacked into him like 4 times because he was just trying to show like, this is how good my stuff is. But he's definitely, Anyway, so I was just thinking maybe don't try that. But I don't think in short, I don't think people know what they're giving up. I don't think we are yet to understand what that means in the future. I think some people might talk about, this is, it might mean that you have less autonomy. If you're an enemy of the state, you'll be found. Think about, Minority Report, and that sort of stuff. And then the question that you kind of had to ask yourself is, well, what are you trying to achieve? And when I talk about empowered by AI, it's that intentionality. Right. Yes. So if you know what it is, then you can make informed decisions and you know what it is. And I think that's a better way to operate than kind of just like, this is cool app. Okay, I'll download it. I'll use it for free. It has all my information out there for some terrible person to come find it. That sort of stuff.
Nothing is free. Nothing is free. So as you were saying that, have you seen the TV show Black Mirror?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Oh, all right. I feel like there's something else you wanted to add to that.
No,
you got really excited.
As in, I have watched Black Mirror. I've watched a couple of episodes, and it's something that I've not watched all the episodes. So I'm just wondering. I'm hoping that whatever example you're giving is going to be one that I watched. So that's why I'm like,
hoping it is too. So I will try not to ruin this one for you. There was an episode in season 6 that had Selma Hayek and I forget the other actress's name, but she was in the TV show Up Schitt's Creek. And essentially this person, the other actress whose name I can't remember, she, was sitting down to watch Netflix or a version of Netflix. They gave it a different name on the show. And she's watching the show. And the name of the episode is Joan is the Worst. I don't know if you saw this one. Did you? Okay. I'm not going to ruin this. But this ties into what you just said, where the TV show that she was watching was basically about her life. And it was taking everything, but it was like in real time. It was like everything that happened that day. It's showing it. And so she gets really upset. So I'm leaving out a lot of details so you can go where you tear it. But at one point, she goes to see an attorney. And she's like, they can't do this. They can't take this. And the attorney's like, oh, well, actually, it's here. It's in, the agreement that you signed. And so going super high level, once again, not to ruin your show or to ruin the show for you. In the show, they talk about how they signed this release that they didn't realize that was, in the agreement. And then additionally, they're utilizing, so at this point, it still feels futuristic, but a level of quantum computing to produce this content really quickly. And so, and I feel like I'm trying not to sound negative, but what you're describing is so interesting, where you're like, all right, well, if we release all of our info, it's all there. And so then nothing's an emergency because we're just flooded with information. But at the same time, there are all these tools that are being developed that can help people to, whether it be target you on Instagram. I'll be honest, most of what I'm wearing right now, I think I bought off of Instagram. I'll just own it. I don't know where you got that t-shirt from or that pillow on the couch behind you. But anyway.
Instagram, I went to a physical store. I still
Okay, you're the run. You're the one. You are the... But that store is pretty empty anyway. But the idea here is that if we have this mentality as a people, like, all right, well, everybody's releasing info, everybody's images everywhere. Like, even the fact that, like, we're doing this podcast, I've done a certain number of podcasts, whether it be this one or others that I've guested on or other ones I've hosted, where it's like someone can easily take my voice. But why would they take my voice? Because everyone's voice is out there. But all of this technology at the same time is being developed that allows you to sort through a series of information and to produce content way quicker than this manual version that we're doing now, which probably seems amazing to us. Us 10 years ago, we'd be like, whoa, you could do that, let alone our ancestors. This is a long way of asking, is there still privacy? At a certain point, will that exist? In your opinion, based upon the work that you do?
I don't think so. Like, and I know that's probably not the right answer. I think the right answer is if he's like, well, of course it's very private.
No, the right answer is what you think. I want to hear what you think.
I don't think so. I think that, and I'm looking at this generationally because I do a lot of multi-generational work, and a lot of the older generation, they don't trust technology. They're more likely to read like the dotted line. And it's like, guys, still on page 2. And it's like, can we just sign the contract? Like,
right.
It's safe. Let's move on. Whereas I think the younger generation are very, you mentioned convenience, efficiency, ease, whatever word you want to use, and they trust it because they've grown up with it. They don't see it really as a threat. I think their relationship with technology is more symbiotic than anything. I think people who are in the middle, you tend to like, it just depends on what they're used to, what their circle is, that kind of influences how they might react to that. So I do think that privacy, because I'm assuming that we're going to phase out the older generation of phones, let's just say. The older generation of phones will be phased out.
I feel like you're looking at me when you were talking about the older generations of phones. I mean, I know it's just you and I here, but it really felt like you were looking at me. Go on. Sorry. I felt targeted.
I say this as respectfully and as empathetically as possible.
Wow,
but I
respectfully.
But I do think that like the younger generation may be more susceptible to give more stuff away because we're already seeing that. And because of that, with the introduction of these new tools and whatever, I think privacy will be a thing of like, you won't even remember what that was really. You think about the horror stories of the case that happened, I think it was Disneyland or Disney World. A guy's wife had an allergic reaction. They can't actually sue them because they had Disney Plus on their, computers or whatever.
I didn't hear about this.
You haven't? Oh my gosh. You need to Google this story. So this guy and girl, husband and wife, go to Disneyland or World, I don't know which one, and she has an allergic reaction in the park. She dies.
She died?
Got it? Yeah, it's not a happy ending. So she dies. Then I hope I got the story right. And then he now wants to pursue this, to kind of sue them. Hey, because they said she had a whatever allergy. But they found out that they had subscribed to Disney Plus at home. When you subscribe to Disney Plus at home, there is a clause that says that you must seek arbitration and not out.
What?
Not life, not Black Mirror. This is real life. So you hear cases like that and you're just like, I think what will have to happen is the laws are going to change. So if we give up privacy, because now everyone's going to give up privacy, how do we protect the individual when we feel like something is violated? And we might have to define or redefine what violation means. It might be like 10 commandments violations, right? And not They called me that, like, as in, might have to get thicker skin. It can't just be anything. Like, yeah.
That is, well, a couple things are running through my mind. I'm like, so do I cancel Disney Plus before I go to Disneyland? I do need to Google this because my youngest is like, we're going back, right? And I'm like trying to delay it as much as possible because I feel like I did it the once. I don't have to go back. That is insane. And I think that is a really great way of kind of like tying this point together around privacy and also the idea of the rights that we give up for convenience, because you're like, I want to be able to watch any Disney movie, or in my case, any Star Wars movie anytime I want, which means if anything happens at Disneyland, they are, that is wild. There's a thing there there's so much there that I love, because, and I'm going to dip into this a little bit. I don't think Disney makes money off of Disney Plus.
I don't think so. And I don't know how people make money. Like, I really want to understand that business model.
There's a thing that I'd love to talk about, but it's too current, so I won't talk about it now. No, I'm just going to say it. We're into it. Like, the guy, and at this point, by the time this podcast has been released, this movie would have been long gone, or who knows, maybe not. But Sinners, the guy who created Sinners, he, and I was just listening to something about this, but he basically created this bespoke deal where he's making money and he also owns the IP where it comes back to him. And so I think along the lines where we're talking about, privacy, he managed to lease his IP, profit off of it, but retain ownership of it. And it seems like that might be an interesting model around privacy and the way that we as individuals interact with technology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that is quite interesting. So what you're saying is we would, as individual actors, we kind of have this bank account. Let's say it's floating over your head. And depending on what tool you're using, you're leasing that to the tool instead of how we are currently using it, where we're leasing from the tool, if that makes sense.
Exactly. And, we get the service from the tool that we are interested in. They get access to the insights and the network effect of us using it in some sort of way. Mm-hmm. Because I was going to ask you, and we're not even going to get to this because we're almost done. This is how quickly this happens, by the way. Isn't that wild? You're like,
I love it.
Actually, no, we still have some time. But they gained the access to our network, all of that. And like one of the questions, like the next question I was going to ask, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to Black Mirror. I've been watching a lot of Black Mirror lately. So I think that's why my head went there. But the next question I was going to ask is along those lines, as far as connecting with people. So it's a bit of a slight pivot. What are the tools that you find are the most effective? And I know this is a weighted question for you because you've already made fun of my LinkedIn page. But what are the tools that you find the most beneficial, the digital tools that you find the most beneficial for connecting with people? And I'm thinking about this idea that we've just described. So I'm going to ask you more about that afterwards. But what are those tools for you?
Beneficial. All right. So I break down like my personal life and my professional life. And I try to keep them as separate as possible. I'm not great at it, but I do try to separate them. So when I think of like connectivity for reaching that goal, impacting, I'm using, the professional that, can I say the names?
You can say the names. Okay. If they come after you, I had nothing to do with what you said. I just want to say that for the record.
Yeah, but like tools like LinkedIn, I think are probably one of the most underrated tools, at least in my generation. I feel like it's quite an underrated tool. I think it's a great way to connect with industry leaders across the globe. And that's what we actually do. We actually look out for those leaders to try and bring them into the network and what we're trying to build. So I think that that's really great. I think I no longer use these tools. I no longer use like Facebook and Instagram as I used to when I was younger. But when I was coming out of like university and college, that was really, Facebook specifically was really great to reconnect with people that, you could just type someone's name and be like, I remember person, and then you like chat, and then you never chat with them again because the novelty just died. I know, it's terrible. I'm sorry. And then personally, I like using WhatsApp. I use WhatsApp more so than I use like iMessage. And I think it's because I just have an international, like, family, friends and stuff. So we tend to be like on the WhatsApp space more than that. But true story. Oh my gosh. Mom and Dad, I hope you don't get upset that I'm sharing this story, but I went to that big conference that we met at, and I was...
We can say the name. We can say the name. We can see the name.
So we went to South by, and I called my parents because they're like, oh, they're checking on me, and I'm like, oh, hey, and then I'm showing them like all the cool like exhibits, and then I'm walking them across the street and all that, and they're just like, I'm not going to say what they said specifically, but they were just like very amazed at like what they were seeing and the diversity and all that stuff. And then you're like, my dad goes, it's so interesting. Like back in the day, we used to really miss our children, and you'd make an effort to like go and see them physically where they are.
Right. Yes.
Now I feel like I walk down the streets with you. Like, I don't have to go there. I saw that person because I'm filming, my interaction. So they already feel like they're with me. And I feel like I've connected with them. And I do that not only with my parents, but, my siblings, my cousins, friends. Like, so you don't have to physically be with somebody anymore to actually like still have some level of connection or connectivity. So those are my
push back.
Okay,
but we do because
we do.
And I forget who's the gentleman that we went for that long walk with when we couldn't find the Museum of the Future. What was his name? Michael. So if I didn't go on that walk with you and Michael, I met you the night before. Because my friend was like, oh, you have to come meet this person. But if I didn't go on that walk with you and Michael, I wouldn't have actually really gotten to know you, in the way that, when we met online, it's like, oh, well, we're just joking about. And I'm like, oh, what is it that you do? Or you tell me more, because I know you do something in technology. I don't fully understand it. Come join this podcast. And I think maybe this is nuanced because you've known your parents, I'm going to say at least 25 years.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's a strong 25. There might be a plus or a minus on there. Who knows? And so you have that deep connection with them. So then you can be walking with them. And to your point, are your parents still in South Africa?
Botswana,
excuse me. My parents are in Ghana. But the difference between my parents being in Ghana and my parents being in New York is nominal because of that. Like I can, take of it what you will, because of some press around it. But my parents will use Signal no matter where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like whether I'm at Disneyland trying to cancel my Disney Plus so I can get on a ride, or if I'm at South by, or if I'm just at home, for them, that interaction is the same if they're seeing the kids that way. But at the same time, I live in California. So it isn't the same. It's really interesting.
Well, like, I agree with you. Like, I feel like, when you asked the question earlier on about, is it better online or in person?
Yeah.
Like, and then I asked, I don't know if I've met someone online but I feel like if you meet someone in person, you are more likely, in my opinion, to actually grow and cultivate some form of friendship or connection or trust using technology, because your interactions with that person can be more frequent than I need to now go fly to California to come and see. Like, okay, like really realistically, am I going to be flying to California every week? No, but I can probably call somebody every week on this to like build some sort of relationship. And of course, when you now meet someone in person, it's great. It's lovely. Touch, hug, feel, smell, everything, the mom hug, the mom smell, like everything. And that you can't get on over the, right. Yeah. So I definitely agree with you, but I think that I don't want to underplay how important, technology has been in terms of me fostering and maintaining connection.
Okay. I love that you said that in that way. Two reasons. I have one friend who I did meet online during COVID in a group panel. And so I think I met him. It must have been like 2019 or 2020. I forget the exact year. I've only been physically in the same place with this person 3 times. And we're really good friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have another example, someone I met in person, my buddy Luca, who was on an earlier episode of the podcast. He lives in Australia. Like literally, I'm always calling into the future to speak to him. I see him. I met him right before the pandemic, maybe like, I think it was 2019. He comes to the States 2 to 3 times a year where I'll see him. Maybe I see him twice a year. But he is easily one of the closest friends that I have, to the point that I'm going to be part of his wedding. And so I also agree with you. I like both of these people that I'm talking about. Whether it's like doing chats or doing, actually, I'm one of these older people that you were talking about. So doing actual phone calls. I've cultivated those relationships, but the phone is a form of technology. And so I agree with you. And I love the way you sort of sum that up, that you can meet someone in person, but technology has given you the ability to cultivate those relationships, especially because you are based in Texas, but you're doing work globally. And from what I understand, your team is also global. And so not only cultivating personal, but professional relationships as well, which is, see how I'm going to do this? The point of this whole podcast. No. I just want to thank you because I know that you're a busy person. And I really want to thank you for carving out time in your day to meet with me, to chat. And I know that we focused mostly on the sort of delta between connecting with people in person, the effects of technology, all of that. And I didn't do a really great job of saying, hey, this is Nono. This is Nono's organization. This is why you should be this is why you should be aware of this. And all of that will go into the show links. But right before we close out, because people always remember the first thing and the last thing that you say, is there anything specifically that you'd love to share? And you've talked around it, but that you'd love to share about your organization that you'd want listeners to leave with, to think not only is Nono delightful and high key brilliant, but also she's doing this work and I want to learn more about it. What would that thing be?
Yeah, thank you for that. So I'm the Chief Ambassador of Transformation Leader, and there we're trying to impact 1 million lives by 2026. If you want to be part of this initiative, you can go to www.t4leader.com. There, we actually upskill people on digital transformation skills, more specifically how to lead and drive digital transformation, because it's not about technology. It's about people. It's about legacy. It's about knowledge sharing. And we've pretty much cultivated a community of people across the globe who also strongly believe in this. So I do hope that you check it out and join the journey with us.
Oh man, that was amazing. That was the best way to end the podcast. So all I'm going to say is, for those of you who've continued to listen, I am astounded and grateful. Thank you. And please spread the word about this wonderful organization that Nono works for. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I guess we'll see you next time.
Thank you.